We're gathered for the final committal service for Maax Hammer Jr.
When I was 14 years old, growing up in San Antonio, Texas, one day I read Great American Fighter Pilots of World War II. I told my mother about this, and she smiled and said, "Did you know that you had a cousin who was a fighter pilot?" As it turned out, in 2001, for a history of air power course that I was auditing, I did a report on the Flying Tigers, and in doing so, I actually discovered that the organization still existed and that the Flying Tigers were still around. So I contacted them and went to their reunions and started meeting people who knew my cousin Maax.
I take pictures in the cemetery and research the families, and Hammer, it interested me whether they were Hammer or Hammer and what kind of name that was. And they were an immigrant family from Germany, and they probably said Hammer. And so my daughter and I would research things, different families. And so we did some things and put it up online. And then Mr. Trip Allen contacted me a few years ago about it. We knew he'd been buried in the churchyard in Burma and that he'd been moved possibly, but you didn't know where.
The Army took them to India, buried them, and then immediately dug them up again, conducted full autopsies and buried them again. And then about 6 months later, they were moved to Hawaii, where more work was done to try and identify them. And finally, on March 22nd to the 23rd of 1949, they were buried in 4 graves. Stones were placed above the graves, and they were listed as unknown.
Those who fought in the European and Pacific theaters served for what was termed in those days the duration of the war. They served not knowing how long they would be gone or if they would return. For most, the duration was several years. For Maax, the duration was 75 years.
There's some sadness because this is a family member who died as a young man, 25 years old, and crashed alone in the jungle of Burma on a rainy Monday morning all by himself. But his people went and got him back.
We did not know his laughter and his smile, his hopes or his dreams. But today, gathered together, we all know Maax in his death. We know his sacrifice. We know him as family, as friends, as service members, as veterans, as citizens, and all of us as Americans. And we honor him and his sacrifice in these moments. We are here collectively to witness and to say, welcome home, Maax. Your family, your service, your fellow Americans, and your country did not forget you.